Day. Shorter slate than normal with the Thanksgiving games, the Monday night games. We took all that out. We're going to focus on the main slate, and let's start with our quarterback, Derek Carr, 6,100. Now looking at the pricing here on Derek Carr, it really stands out on DraftKings. You look at FanDuel, he's priced up with some of the high-end guys. Look at DraftKings, he's about the 9th, 10th quarterback. So something you can take advantage of on DK and get some more exposure to him over there. And I know Oakland trying to establish the run a little bit more here, but maybe tough sledding against this Carolina defense where the secondary is really where you want to attack them. So that's what's making me look to Derek Carr this week. Carolina's really struggled against receivers, against quarterbacks. You see, bottom 10 in the league so far this season, and Carr really gives you that upside to do well on the salary. And we've seen many games of him in the mid-20s, had that huge game in Tampa, obviously, almost put up 40 fantasy points. But even in the last game, he was efficient, 295 and 3, 22 fantasy points, approaching 4 times on this $6,100 salary. So at home, they need to keep winning. It's a tough division there with Denver and Kansas City hot on their trail. Derek Carr at home against Carolina, 6,100, too good of a price for me to ignore. Speaking of good price, let's go to running backs here. A guy I think's vastly underpriced on DraftKings this week, Carlos Hyde, 4,800. And I know, Miami been better against the run lately. That's going to be everyone's argument against playing Carlos Hyde, but 4,800 for Carlos Hyde, I mean, you really have to scan down far to find this guy, and I don't think that's warranted. He's healthy, he's getting back in the mix, looked a lot better last week against New England, gave you 14 fantasy points. We know he's going to be heavily involved in the run game, in the passing game. They're going to target him with Kaepernick. I think it's such a good fit. So Chip Kelly's come out and said, and I don't always believe coach speak, but this guy is going to be the guy that we go to. He's going to be the focal point of this offense. So I tend to agree with that because I've seen it happen here. Carlos Hyde's put some big games together. Miami, again, been better of late, but over the season, been giving out a lot of rushing yards on the ground. So San Francisco coming east to west, it's a tough spot for them, but I think they try to establish the run here. I think Carlos Hyde at 4,800, just way too cheap for you this week. Get him in some lineups. All right, let's go to the tight end position. Let's play off of that Derek Carr play with Greg Olsen, 5,800. That's now 7 or more targets for Greg Olsen, so he's been the consistent pass catcher in this offense. Benjamin's the high upside touchdown guy, but Olsen's the guy that you can count on each and every week. And again, I love the correlation play with Derek Carr. If you wanted to stack this game, you go with Carr, so you go with a Cooper, you get some Olsen and run it back on the other side. The price has come down a little bit, so 5,800 hasn't been great of late. So people are going to look at that. They're going to stay away from Greg Olsen. So ownership in tournaments shouldn't be terrible. Most people looking to spend down on tight end, and I normally am as well, but in a tournament, I think Olsen makes a lot of sense here. Oakland, going back years, has generally struggled with the tight ends. This season, no difference. Bottom 10 in fantasy points allowed. So get some Greg Olsen, pair him up with Derek Carr, a little Mari Cooper. Got a little mini game stack there. Olsen, 5,800. All right, to the wide receiver position, Willie Snead of the Saints, 5,200. I always like comparing FanDuel, DraftKings, kind of looking at the salaries. If you look on FanDuel, a lot of these guys are lumped together. Cooks, Thomas, Snead are all kind of priced near each other. On DraftKings, you got Cooks, you have Thomas, and then far drop off here to Willie Snead. So really stood out to me as the price, 5,200. The targets have been there. 7 or more targets in 5 of the last 6 games. This is a Rams secondary that's very much beatable, especially with New Orleans playing at home here. And Snead getting the red zone looks as well. Breeze and Snead have a very good connection together, and you definitely want a piece of the Saints offense. Whether you have Breeze, you want to stack him up with somebody. On DraftKings, Snead would be that guy for me. You take the cheaper of the guys. Generally the way I've been playing this with the Saints receivers this week, and this price, just way too cheap. Love Michael Thomas, like Brandon Cooks at home, but I'm loving Willie Snead's price at 5,200. All right, let's play the correlation game here again. We had Willie Snead. Now let's get some Rams here with Kenny Britt, 5,400. And this is another pricing play. You look at FanDuel, he's a top 10 receiver at 7,100. You come over here to DraftKings, just 5,400. So a lot of people don't believe in Jared Goff. It's New Orleans. It's in the Superdome. They're going to score some points. And Britt didn't really take much of a hit with Jared Goff in there. Still saw 7 targets in that game. So I'm not as concerned with Jared Goff as some people seem to be, especially here in the Coors Field of the NFL. I think the Rams, their team total is very low. That's going to keep people away. I think they outperform that projection this week, and Kenny Britt's going to be a big reason why. 5,400, going to rack up the targets, going to rack up the catches. I think he finds the end zone this week. Don't be afraid of the Rams. Kenny Britt, 5,400, nice under the radar value play for you this week. All right, that's 5. Let's get to number 6. We call him the Beast of the Week. All right, Beast time. We're going to go back to the running back position, and we're going to roll with San Diego Chargers running back Melvin Gordon, 7,000 this week's Beast of the Week. Now, the running back position, very tricky this week. Got David Johnson up top, is always in play, but you got a lot of guys in tough spots here. I think Melvin Gordon, people may look at this as a tough spot, but I think this is a great spot for him. The touches have been outstanding. Last week, 29. Week before that, 36, 27, 28. This guy's getting a ton of work here each and every week. So 27 or more touches in 6 straight that makes now. Obviously the focal point of their offense, and Houston has really struggled against the running back. Bottom 10 in receiving yards, in fantasy points, in rushing yards. So we know this guy's going to get the ball in all facets of the San Diego attack. We know he's going to get a ton of work around the goal line. Has a great nose for the end zone. Last year, no touchdowns. This year seems to score each and every week. And look at that average over the last month or so, giving you almost 30 DK points each and every week. So 4X, 5X, not out of the question here. Melvin Gordon, love him on DraftKings this week with all that he does. 7,000, a nice price. Melvin Gordon, this week's Beast of the Week. All right, guys, that'll do it for Week 12. Any questions, comments, concerns,